Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Movie Bollocks. So it's been a little while, and it's another, as you've seen, it's another review edition. But the reason for that is I have got a couple of interviews lined up. So Movie Bollocks is going to be getting a little bit of momentum coming your way. So I thought I would get all of this out the way. So I'm not starting episodes with interviews in with a bunch of reviews at the front. It's all, basically that's what's going on in my head. Okay. So you are going to be getting a few more regular Movie Bollocks in the coming weeks and months. This is basically the Viewer's Guide, part 3. This is me going through 25 movies, I think it's 25, and 5 TV series, so you don't have to, as always. And, what the hell, why don't we just get on with it and steam in and see how quickly I can get through this? Okay, so, first up, Chaos Walking. Now, I will have a little bit more background info on all of these. I'll go a little bit more in depth in some, and I won't on others. Why don't I just get on with it? Okay, stars: Tom Holland, Daisy Ridley, she of the Star Wars franchise, he of the Spider-Man franchise. It's a movie of a book. I think. I as always, I'm just giving you the review. Seen the film, what did I think? Not really bothered about, is it as good as the book? It's a film, it's a different medium, don't compare the two. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I just thought it was a little bit different. It was really well done. It was a slightly different concept. It's not the usual. It's not what you're expecting. I mean, it's set in the dystopian future, and you're just thinking, oh God, really? Not again? Is it a bunch of kids running around in the woods trying to kill each other? Is it basically, I nearly said Lord of the Rings. Is it sort of, Lord of the Flies put to music with special effects? No, it isn't. It's certainly not Lord of the Rings either. It's a planet whereby there's men's thoughts can be heard. So it doesn't affect women, but if men think, they can be heard. And I don't think there's any women on the planet either. It's a little while ago since I watched it. So it's really well done. I'm really not doing a great job of describing it to you. Okay, I would say it's worth a watch. Others wouldn't, but it's interesting. It's sci-fi and it's well done. And also, Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley, both great, really good in it, and a nice kind of they gel together. They gel really well together. Okay, so following on from Chaos Walking is Greta. Now this movie confused me. It really did, right? It's an hour and 38 minutes long. Now, director Neil Jordan. Written by Ray Wright. Screenplay by Neil Jordan. Stars: Isabelle Huppert, Chloe Grace Moretz, Maika Monroe. And I'm just thinking, this has got all of the ingredients. A young woman befriends a lonely widow who's harbouring a dark and deadly agenda toward her. Now, this movie at times is so clunky and so bad that you just think, did they fall asleep on this day? Did they have games day? Did they all just bring board games in and go, today doesn't matter? It is bizarre. I mean, Neil Jordan, who I love, he makes an appearance in this. God, for some reason I can't remember the word for fucking appearance. But he makes 8 cameos of what I wanted in this, in his own movie, and he's terrible. He's terrible in his own movie, right? He directs himself from his own screenplay, and he's bad. He's clunky. He's wooden. And at times there are scenes that are so fucking wooden. Something I'm going to point out to you now, which is supposed to be, I'll tell you now, right? This is supposed to be, this is supposed to be a twist. The old woman can't really play the piano. the thing is, as soon as you see her in a scene playing the piano, you just go, well, she's not playing that. I mean, it's fucking obvious. And I'm not saying this as a movie nerd, as somebody who, like, you know, as soon as someone's playing a piano, my eyes zero in on their fingers to see if they're hitting all the right keys in the right place. Of course fucking not. How would I know? I can't play the bloody piano. But I know when someone has played the piano in the scene and they've lost the music out of it. I know when someone's hitting the keys and when someone's pretending to hit the keys. And that's supposed to be part of a major twist, and it just isn't. Also, keep an eye out for the bike. There is an... Right, okay, this is bizarre, right? There's an orange bike in this film, right? A push bike. Now, I don't know how much they were paid, right, to product place this bike in the movie, or what company owns the bike. But the bike keeps it appears 3 times, right? Pretty needless. My favourite one, there must have been somebody on set from the company, right? My favourite scene is Chloe Grace Moretz and her flatmate are having a chat in the flat whilst Chloe Grace Moretz rides said bike, and it's a racing bike, folks. It's not a kid's little chopper. It's a race, you know, like a proper adult racing bike with the curled handles, yeah? They have a conversation while she rides the bike around this huge kitchen, because obviously, you know, it's a massive kitchen in a massive fucking apartment, loft apartment in New York, which, as we all know, costs like, you know, £10 a week. So one of them is she's talking to her whilst she cycles round her in the flat. It's the most horrible kind of shitty wank Love Actually rubbish that British directors seem obsessed with. Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll have a cute scene where somebody rides a bike around in a house and the other person talks to him. He's like, yeah, do you know what? That scene might have worked if A, it didn't feel like such gratuitous product placement, and B, if that's the kind of movie it was. If it in any way, you know, was fitted the tone. This movie is tonally all over the place. At times it's supposed to be full on, like, life threat. And at other times it's supposed to be thrilling and mysterious. And some of these scenes lack so much atmosphere. They lack a spark. They lack anything to draw you in, because you're going from tone to tone and you're just kind of not sure, so it keeps you shifting from foot to foot. And by the end of it, it finishes and you kind of go, Jesus Christ, there wasn't one thing in that surprised me. There wasn't one, and you know, I'm reviewing it for you here. You please, and with some of these movies, maybe I'm seeing something that doesn't exist. Please see them. Tweet me, get on the Instagram page. It's all Talking Bollocks. You can find it. Come on. And let me know what you think, because I thought it was it just all over the shop. Absolutely all over the shop. Right. So anyway, moving on. Spent quite a lot of time on that. The Toll. Now, The Toll is, it's functional. Okay, it is functional. There's nobody in it that you've really heard of. It's directed and written by Michael Nader. I don't know who that is. Jordan Hayes and Max Toplin and James McGowan star. Anyway, not bad. A little bit of a twist in it. It's an hour and 20 minutes. It's a couple driving off. She gives him a lift. Or vice versa. I can't even remember that. Here we go. Socially awkward driver and a wary passenger tried to make their destination while being haunted by a supernatural threat. And that's a kind of good description. It's all right. There's some little bits and pieces in it where you go, oh, yeah, okay, cool. Wasn't expecting that. And the performances are fine. The world building is fine. They stick to their own rules. And yeah, it was interesting. It was okay. If The Toll 2 came about, I'd probably check it out. At 1 hour 20 minutes, you know, it's even if you don't like it, you're not going to be angry that you don't like it. Next up, The Last Vermeer, starring Guy Pearce. This is a true story of a painter. I don't want to give too much away because Okay, he's a painter. The Nazis have just been defeated. It's just after the Second World War. He's a failed painter, actually. But he's an art dealer now. And he is basically about to be arrested and put on trial for selling some of the most amazing artwork in Holland to Nazi officers and to senior Nazis like Goebbels and people like that. It's a true story, and Guy Pearce is great in it. And just check it out. I really enjoyed it. It's one of those things again where you go, oh, truth is stranger than fiction, isn't it? Eh? Oh, you couldn't make, if somebody made that up and told you, you'd say, oh no, that could never happen. Well, it happened. So it's great. It's kind of a war film, but not a war film. It's not a war film actually. It's more a film about art, but It's really good. I really enjoyed it. So, I really enjoyed it. I think it's really good and worth checking out from a historical point of view. And Guy Pearce, if Guy Pearce is in it, I'll watch it. Speaking of Australian actors, Eric Bana stars in The Dry. By the way, all of these available somewhere. I think Greta is Netflix. The Toll, I can't remember where you see that at the moment. The Last Vermeer, Amazon, but you have to rent it, you have to pay for it. Now, The Dry, I can't quite remember where I saw this, my apologies. Starring Eric Bana, set in Australia. It's an Australian movie. And it starts with Eric Bana as a cop coming back to, but a kind of undercover cop who's, become quite famous. And he comes back to the little town that he's from. Town is stretching it, village more like. And there's been a murder, and he's kind of come back to be part of the funeral, but then asked to investigate, and it gets kind of twisted. And 2 hours. It's called The Dry because they've had, they're well into a drought in this particular part of Australia, and I really enjoyed it. It's one of those movies that builds an atmosphere. The Dry is just a perfect title. It really, really is, because this whole movie is it's so dry. It's like a tinderbox. Just like the surrounding tundra in the movie. It's just like the whole place looks like it could go up any minute. It is so dry, and the fractious relationships, and it's one of those movies where people are just acting their tits off, and you don't notice until it's over, and you go, wow, everybody was really good in that. And Eric Bana is so watchable, and I really enjoyed him in this. Absolutely excellent, kept me gripped. And it's just one of those movies that you just feel yourself just kind of, you just seep into it. And at times you're not even sure why, but it just works. So I really enjoyed that. Great piece of Australian movie making. Next up is Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk. So, that is a star of Better Call Saul, star of Breaking Bad as Saul Goodman. Bob Odenkirk is nobody. That is who he is described as in the movie. It's a bystander who intervenes to help a woman being harassed by a group of men becomes the target of a vengeful drug lord. And that's basically sums up the entire movie. I really enjoyed it. It's action with a smile on its face, with its tongue in its cheek, winking at you from the screen. But at no point is it a comedy. At no point does it disappear into something where you just think, oh, you've gone stupid now. You've lost me now. No, that never happens. Really enjoyed it. If you like action, yeah. I personally, it's 1 hour 32 minutes. Again, you'll notice with me, if it's hitting a 90-minute time span, I am really, really loving it. If it's longer and just as engaging, hurrah! Anyway, Nobody, I can recommend that because I enjoyed it. Lots of violence, but also kind of like in a comedic way. Yeah, so there's sort of comedic gross violence in there as well. But a really interesting take. Ultimately, a very cool action flick and a very interesting take. And there is no doubt going to be a Nobody 2. My guess will be that it'll be called No Bodies. But there you go. Next up, White Tiger. White Tiger is on Netflix, I think, or Amazon. It's on one of the two. Free to watch. Absolutely superb. It is a 2-hour story of a young Indian boy coming from his village. He's very poor. He's in a very low caste, and he explains his journey from his village to being the man he is today, who is quite a powerful man. And it's a fascinating look at India. It's a fascinating look at part of India that doesn't really ever get shown, which is the very, very poor part of India, and the villages stuck in the middle of nowhere. And the fact that the caste system and how important that is in Indian society to this day still exists. And given with what's going on in India at the moment with Corona, and it becoming very, very clear that there is no kind of health system, and that things like, even sewers and drainage are lacking in some villages, which is, horrendous to think about, given this country's supposed to be the next, economic world superpower. This film seems like particularly well timed. White Tiger. It's an action story. It's kind of a love story. It's kind of it's a life journey. It's a cautionary tale. It's violent. It really does. It's one of those movies that by the end of it you go, wow. I used this when I was talking about Cherry the other week ago. It's a journey. It is a journey, and you get to the end of the movie and you go, wow, that was quite a journey, quite a trip. Fascinating. Everything is covered in it. Really, honestly, I really do recommend White Tiger, especially because it's so different. It's an Indian film made in India. It's all in English, by the way, in case you're worrying. It looks fantastic. And there's bits of humour in there, and there's quite a lot of humour in it. Really enjoyed it. White Tiger. Next up, Love and Monsters, also on Netflix. Really enjoyed it. A really, really great take on, again, dystopian future. Basically, bugs and creatures now rule the world after we fucked up. And people have to stay underground or stay in little gatherings. And if you're going to move across, if you're going to move across the surface, you have to do so very carefully. Now, all of that sounds like, really? I'll skip that. I've had enough of that. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was excellent. There is pathos, there is humour, there is not too much sentimentality. Sometimes these kind of movies can spend too much time, for me, building a subtext that is romantic, and they don't hit. It's there right from the outset. It's on the surface, but it doesn't play a major role. Really enjoyed it. Superb effects, really interesting story. Set against a kind of backdrop that you're familiar with, a dystopian world, and some things happened and humans are fucked now, but does something completely different with it, and I really enjoyed it. Love and Monsters pisses all over that movie just called Monsters, which doesn't have any monsters in it. This one does. Much better. Anyway, sorry, just had to mention Monsters because I went to see that piece of shit at the cinema and it really annoyed me. Thank you, Gareth Edwards, you directing bastard. Anyway, next up, couldn't be more different. Now, when I watched this, it hadn't been nominated for an Oscar, for an Oscar. And when I watched this, it hadn't won the Oscar for Best Documentary. But it has since won those prizes. Totally deserves it. My Octopus Teacher. 1 hour and 20 minutes where you will sit with your mouth open going, wow, that is pretty bloody amazing. You'll also sit with your mouth open going, wow, he is mad. The main guy in it, who's awesome, who's great, he's not mad. Well, everybody has their opinions. It's an amazing story about a guy who befriends an octopus that lives in the sea near him. And there you go. Really? Surely that can't be true. We're back to Stranger Than Fiction again, aren't we? But honestly, check it out on Netflix. It won the Oscar for Best fucking documentary, for fuck's sake. Next up, complete opposite. The Angriest Man in Brooklyn. Very sadly, Robin Williams' last ever film. I gave it 20 minutes and I had to stop. It was just terrible. The directing. It's one of those things where when you're watching scenes and you're thinking, but this is really weird. This is like, why are they shouting and why are they like super angry and what's going on here and why don't I care about what any of them are doing or saying? And invariably that's because you've got a director who's asking for a particular type of performance from the actors, and whatever he's going for, whether it's completely over the top or whatever it is, I don't know, but it was just like watching a series of scenes with completely repulsive, unlikable characters in all of them, and nobody actually being likable. And that goes for everybody, including Robin Williams in this. It was just like scenes where somebody would come in and say, "Oh, I'm afraid so and so's not here. You're going to have to deal with me," and then this person just absolutely fucking losing them on it. And when you're watching it, you're just thinking, why are you losing it? Why are you being an asshole? And it's basically like a 10 reaction to a 5 situation. And you look at it and you just think, what the fuck? And it's just so jarring and so bad. Had to sack it off. If you get to the end, let me know. If you like it, tell me what I was missing. Next up, another Oscar nominee, Sound of Metal. Riz Ahmed, who's in a lot of great stuff at the moment, and one of my favourite actors, Four Lions, Mowgli, which is just awesome. And anyway, he's in Sound of Metal. You all know, nominated for an Oscar. Heavy metal drummer, goes deaf, and that's what it's all about. It's all about. It's a fellow metalhead sent me a message saying, "Have you seen it? Oh, fucking boring." It's about one man's. It's about a musician's life, and about how it's altered and changed by the fact that he started losing his hearing and loses his hearing, and what it does to him, what it does to his life, what it does to his relationships, what it does to his mentality, what it does to his career. Now, there's no exploding helicopters, funnily enough, and there's no fucking car chases, and there's not a load of metal in it. It's about the guy going deaf, yeah? It's about sound of, it's not about metal. Really enjoyed it. It's a real sort of meditative piece. It is one of those things where you just think, like, while you're watching it, you kind of think, fuck me, man, that would be horrible. So, if you fancy 2 hours of that, give it a go. I enjoyed it. Next up, Without Remorse. Now, Without Remorse is the latest Amazon Prime movie. And it's okay. It's all right. Well, actually, right. The full title is Tom Clancy's Without Remorse, right? And it stars Michael B. Jordan, who I really like. And it comes in at 109 minutes, and it's all right, but it's just nothing you've never seen before, And it's one of those where, someone's got to set up a bunch of people. Someone's got to get a bunch of people together so they can go and do a bunch of stuff. And there'll be somebody in charge who says, you get this bunch of people together and get the bunch of stuff. And this is why you're doing it and everything will be all right. And they go, okay, no worries. I'll go and get some people and we'll go get the bunch of stuff. And there's a few more meetings and you think, yeah, someone's fucking somebody over somewhere. And oh, what a surprise. It's okay. It's functional. It's not brilliant. And Michael B. Jordan, I really, really like. He's not got a lot to do here, apart from he's clearly fucking bulked the fuck up and looks rock hard. But other than that, okay. Now, next up, old movie geek here has got a bit of embarrassing news, so I'm going to have to share this with you, so I may as well get on with it. Okay. The next movie I'm going to review, I saw for the first time 2 weeks ago. And it's called Saving Private Ryan. I'd never seen it. You all have. Yeah, sorry. Fucking great. Loved it. Spielberg. What can I say? next, The Hunt. This came out a couple of years ago, and I kind of gave it a swerve at the time. Don't know why. Went back, really enjoyed it. Well, I do know why I've gone back to it, because Paul Waller, he of the A Year in Horror podcast, I suggest you subscribe, you fucking idiot, if you haven't already. And even if you don't like horror, I'd subscribe, because I subscribe just because I know Paul and I like Paul, thinking I wasn't into horror. And then I realised I really am, and I've watched loads of horror films. I've probably got more of them than anything else. What an idiot. But for some reason, in my own head, never considered myself a horror fan. So maybe you are too. Maybe you are indeed as mad as I was. Anyway, The Hunt, really enjoyable. Bunch of people dropped into a field. They don't know why. People start shooting at them, they hide, they escape, they start getting away, and it's a game of cat and mouse, and it's clearly a bunch of people who've decided to hunt a bunch of other people. However, the right-wing and left-wing politics of the USA are pretty much stamped like names through rock. It's stamped through the movie that ultimately this is about the ongoing political debate between left and right in the States. I thought it was a great action movie. I thought it was a really sort of on-the-nose reflection of the States and where it sits now. But you know what? Fuck all that. Really good film. Really enjoyed it. Really, really enjoyed it. Next up, Truth to Power. Wasn't expecting to watch this. Wasn't expecting to like this. But I did both. Truth to Power is surprisingly, it's called Truth to Power, and it's kind of framed around Serj Tankian, the singer from System of a Down. And I really didn't know his story, and I really didn't know where he is now, and what a figure he is to the Armenian people. Because this movie is about Serj Tankian, System of a Down, but more importantly, and it's more about the Armenian people, and wanting the Armenian genocide to be recognised across the world as something that happened, as opposed to brushing it under the carpet and going, no, that never happened. And for your information, it was Turkey who exterminated and ethnically cleansed a bunch of said Armenians. Now, again, that is a very, very broad brushstroke painting of the situation. But anyway, ultimately, Truth to Power, fascinating documentary. Lots of System of a Down, lots of Serj, lots of... Well, it starts from the beginning of the band's career. I mean, it really is. If you're a System of a Down fan, you'll love it. If you are a fan of documentaries, I think you'll enjoy it. If you are interested in that part of the world and just international politics in general, but you know what? If you just like really interesting documentaries where you come away and go, "Wow, I had no idea," Truth to Power, definitely worth a watch. Next up, Freeway. Why did I watch Freeway, bearing in mind it's from, years ago? Well, I watched it because, again, A Year in Horror podcast, did a little review on it, and I thought that sounds interesting. And, wow, yeah, it is kind of bizarre. It's from many years ago. Kiefer Sutherland is at his absolute creepiest in this movie. It stars Reese Sutherland. Stars Reese Witherspoon, who's brilliant and very early in her career. And as I mentioned earlier, Kiefer Sutherland. And a twisted take on Little Red Riding Hood, with a teenage juvenile delinquent on the run from a social worker, travelling to her grandmother's house and being hounded by a charming but sadistic serial killer and paedophile. That would be Kiefer Sutherland. I mean, if that doesn't strike you as a right laugh, I don't know what will. It's an hour and 42 minutes. I really enjoyed it. Executive producer is Oliver Stone on this, and that should tell you, all you need to know. Yeah, it without doubt, it does feel a bit clunky because of its age, but really, really enjoyed it. It was absorbing. Some of the action in it is terrible. I mean, laughable, but certainly worth a watch if you're in the mood and if you can hang in there long enough. Next up, I'm going to review 3 movies together because they're not far off the same thing. Page 8, Turks and Cacos, and Salting the Battlefield. Now, these 3 movies all star Bill Nighy as Johnny Warwicker. Now, Johnny Warwicker would appear to be a bit of a spy, you see. That's my Bill Nighy impression. I'm going to try and steer clear of the impressions, although my Cheech Marin one has received some pretty good reviews. My Dave Mustaine one, however, not so. But in all seriousness, right, Johnny Warwicker is a UK spy. The list of cast. Well, sorry, the list of cast. The cast list of these movies is absolutely phenomenal, because across these 3 films you've got Bill Nighy in all of them. You've got Rachel Weisz, Tom Hughes, what's her name? Helena Bonham Carter. Just the list goes on. And what's his name's in it as well? Honestly, this is killing me. Sorry, I'm going to tell you so. Ralph Fiennes is in it. That's the one. Is it? And Michael Gambon. And Felicity Jones. And Saskia Reeves. I mean, and Ralph Fiennes, who I've already mentioned. Honestly, it really is. All 3 movies are worth a watch. But I can tell you now, Judi Davis is in it as well, and she's fantastic. What I can tell you is that, no, it's not James Bond. It's all very gentle. Oh, Christopher Walken is in one of them as well. It's all very gentle. It's all very British, and he's very I'm a civil servant. I wouldn't call myself a spy. And it's all it's all like kind of that, and a little bit of jazz in the background, and before you know, oh bloody hell, 2 hours has gone by. Oh, I really enjoyed that. Or an hour and a half. I think they're all around an hour and a half. And it's just 3 movies that have got the same kind of vibe, that they never seem to build to a climax. There never seems to be, a real threat or jeopardy. But you're just constantly engaged. And I don't know if it's the acting, the writing. All 3 movies written by David Hare. And it's just, all 3 movies were made around the same time, 3 years between all 3. Well, basically all 3 movies were made in a 3-year window. And it just seems to be just a really, really nice vibe. I enjoyed hanging out with these movies, which is kind of how it feels. That's the best way I can describe it. So there you go. That was page 8, Turks and Cacos, and Salting the Battlefield. Next up, The Woman in the Window, starring Amy Adams. This is on either Netflix or Amazon. I can't remember which one it's come on to at the moment. And she's in it. She's great. Gary Oldman's in it. He's all right. And it's kind of there. And Julianne Moore's in it as well, although not very long. And everyone's really good in it, and it's okay. But it's one of those where you get the feeling that they're trying to build suspense. And the thing is, if you're watching something and you're thinking they're trying to build suspense, they probably haven't built it. Now, for some reason, I just found it difficult to engage with. I found it difficult to get into. I just kind of found, Gary Oldman comes in all, grey-haired, shouting and ranting, doing his best chewing scenery. And, it's kind of, I don't know, when it's finished, I thought, right, okay, well, that happened, and they turned out to be that, and they did that. And right, okay. Yeah. I wonder why, when I had all of that together, that I didn't enjoy it more. Yeah. Because all the pieces and parts are there, but I didn't get more out of it. And maybe you will. The Woman in the Window. There you go. Next up, watched this very recently, Army of the Dead. Now, Army of the Dead is the new Netflix project from none other than Zack Snyder. Now, he of the Snyder Cut, funnily enough, he brings us Army of the Dead. Following a zombie outbreak in Las Vegas, a group of mercenaries take the ultimate gamble, venturing into the quarantine zone to pull off the greatest heist ever attempted. Story by Zack Snyder, Shay Hatton, and Joby Harold. Well, stars Dave Bautista, Ella Purnell, and then quite a few people you've never heard of, or at least I've never heard of. So anyway, yeah, it's 2.5 hours, and I remember watching it, and we got to 1.5 hours. I got to an hour in, and I thought you could either start the movie at this point, or you could have condensed the previous hour into about 20 minutes. It's really weird because it's almost like you get this whole setup that's... Now, normally, the point of that is to make you feel about the characters. It's to get you involved and engaged with the characters and really engaged with them because of the journey they're going to go on. Now, if you're Zack Snyder, that takes you an hour. If you're Ridley Scott, you can do that in about 15 to 20 minutes. Because that's what he does at the beginning of Black Hawk Down. He manages to introduce a shitload of characters that you don't know from Adam, and after 15 or 20 minutes, drops them in the meat grinder, they're all getting shot at, and you care. It's amazing. With this, it's filmed to Zack Snyder. It's all right. It's okay. It's 2.5 hours. There's plenty of action. There's plenty of zombie. I mean, I'd love to say there's plenty of surprises, but it's Zack Snyder. Never is. Yeah, it's all right. Not bad. I didn't feel like, I wasn't like, there's 2.5 hours of my life I'm never going to get back. I just thought, yeah, okay, that was all right. Some big set pieces. Some stuff happened. Some shit went down. And yeah, it's not a zombie movie, but it's also not a heist movie. And I think it ends up being not a lot of things, but not actually being something. There you go. Next up, The Standoff at Sparrow Creek. Now, I found this on Amazon, and I thought, with a title like that, I just rolled straight into it off the back of Army of the Dead, actually. And 90 minutes. It's one of the... I ignore the description where it tries to draw parallels with fucking Reservoir Dogs and all sorts. It's got absolute... That's a joke. It's a waste of time. It's a really, really interesting premise. I don't want to tell you what it is. All I would say is... The Standoff at Sparrow Creek. If after 10 minutes you're not interested or it's not for you, you will be able to make that decision. Because we don't hang about, we get straight into it. Same way you do with Reservoir Dogs. That's about the only comparison that stands up. I enjoyed it. Some great acting, great script. You're not looking for constant twists, but it is one of those movies where you're in a room with a bunch of guys, someone did something, who is it and why? And that is what they're all asking themselves. And it's one of those movies where, let's say there's like 8 people in a room. There's 9 people. There's the 8 of them, and there's you constantly trying to figure out along with them. And that's, for me, when I know something's really worked, is when, you're in there with them. Next up, Anti-Life. This is on Netflix. It stars Bruce Willis. They're on a spaceship. They're going to New Earth because we knackered old Earth. Something's on the ship. Ooh, what's going to happen? If you want to watch a movie that has absolutely no surprises and that hits every single possible stereotype you can imagine on the head over and over again, where you can literally tick everything off, you can tick off all of the "I wouldn't do that if I were you" moments. You can tick off all of the "yeah, he's not who he says he is." Absolutely. If you just want to take your brain out and put it in a bowl of fucking disinfectant, then Anti-Life is for you, because it will wipe your brain whilst you sit there. There's nothing here that you haven't seen before anywhere else. It's done no better anywhere. Well, it's done better elsewhere. It's certainly it is really, really just standard sci-fi. Ooh, and it still takes too long. It's only 90 minutes, and it still takes too long to really get going. Anyway. Final movie now, Wrath of Man. I watched this last night. It is the new Guy Ritchie movie. And it does star Jason Statham, the Stath, who I have had lunch with when he was going out, years ago. Anyway, long story. I'll tell you that sometime. I've probably already told you that before. Anyway. Right, so a few things about this. Right, first up, I am a card-carrying member of the Guy Ritchie is a Dick fan club. I don't think Lock, Stock is all that. I don't think Snatch is all that. I really don't think... I just don't think he's all that. He's also made probably the worst movie I've ever seen. And I would tell you what that is, but I think I've wiped it from my brain. For some reason, it's gone blank and I can't remember. But anyway. Wrath of Man. Now, this, for me, I don't know. It's a weird one. Again, it's like the movie starts, you get about an hour in, and then it just goes off in another direction and spends half an hour kind of giving you the backstory on people that you thought you already knew, and that backstory doesn't tell you any more really about them than you already knew. And so that's a bit weird. Good sound design. Really enjoyed the sound design on this, as in it's doing something different, really different, and just changing grooves and not the normal Guy Ritchie, just fucking Tarantino copy. Statham is, Statham does his, all right, why don't you let me buy you a beer? Just drink it over there, all right? He's doing that performance, right? He's fucking hard. And he turns up to work for a security company in a truck that, transports cash. We've also seen, right at the beginning of the movie, a heist take place. And it is, for me, Guy Ritchie tries, right from the outset, to build suspense. It didn't quite work for me, because during the raid, some people are killed, and one of the people who is killed, it gets cut off as to who they are or what they are before the scene ends. So straight away, I'm thinking, right, well, let's flag that up. And there's a very good reason for that being flagged up. So, it kind of, I don't know, when you've watched as many movies as I, you know these tricks, you see it coming, you go, right, okay, so, and I'm sure, but then again, this isn't necessarily a movie about big reveals. I think you kind of always know who Jason Statham is and why he's there and what he's doing. And basically, he gets a job working for the armoured truck company who were raided, and we saw that raid in the first scene. We see that raid several times through the films from different angles. We see him become an employee and start getting embedded with the other employees. But it's kind of really weird as well, because you end up, he throws in a 6 months previously, and you go, oh, right, okay, we're going back 6 months. And you see a scene, you go, okay. Then it goes 3 months later, and you're thinking, right, okay, well, okay, so it was 6 months previously. So 3 months later, is this now 3 months previously? Or is this 3 months later from the time before we went back 6 months? So you can go like, and then, oh, right, no, okay, you kind of catch up. And then it go, oh, and then 4 months later, and then 3 months later, and 6, and after a while you're thinking, is there going to be a flash card any minute go 2 minutes previously? These are, I mean, I find it hard not to have a dig at Guy Ritchie, because it's quite easy. But do you know what? I got to the end of this movie, 2 hours, no surprises at all, but technically really well made, beautifully shot, held together, good sound design, and I just thought, yeah, you know what? I enjoyed that. I doubt I'll ever watch it again because there's literally, it's all on screen. You know, you're not going to watch this again and go, oh, right. Because for me, I kind of saw what was going to happen before it happened at every stage, but still enjoyed it. And there's a certain, you know, there is without doubt a credit in that because, you know, ultimately, if I knew what was going to happen and I still enjoyed it, then it's done all right. So there you go. That was Wrath of Man. That's the end of the movies. Okay, let's smash into the series straight away. First up, Jupiter's Legacy on Netflix. Interesting. It's clearly a Netflix version of The Boys, although completely dissimilar. The only similarity is that they are about superheroes. And here we get a bunch of old superheroes kind of coming under threat and from a new enemy. So we hear about how they got their powers in the first place, and we see their journey, if you want, to where they are now. And it becomes clear to me that with only 8 episodes in this first series, the next series is they're going to be fading out the older superheroes, and we'll end up with just another superhero program. And that's fine. That's what it was meant to do. Apparently, this could have been a movie or a series of movies, but the writer was told, look, let's do this as TV. Otherwise, you're going to end up doing, you know, having to chop huge parts out. You're not going to be able to give characters their backstory, etc., etc. And then you end up with Justice League, the Snyder Cut. So instead, why don't we make it as a TV series? Watched all 8 episodes very quickly. Enjoyed it. There's some really good. There is some good lines in there. Some good humour in there. There's some interesting, and it's an interesting take, and it's an interesting look. If you're into superheroes, Jupiter's Legacy, you probably want to watch it. If you're not into superheroes, Jupiter's Legacy, you probably don't want to watch it. Now, another shout out for Animal Kingdom. Okay, great TV series on Netflix. 3 series. There's a 4th series if you can find it elsewhere. I've also watched that. Really enjoyed it. And yeah, I know I've mentioned it before, but seriously, if you like Peaky Blinders, if you like Sons of Anarchy, if you like that kind of thing, definitely worth a watch. And the matriarch of this family, Smurf, oh my God, she is she is the Tony Soprano. She really is. She is the Jax Teller. She is the fucking Tommy from Peaky Blinders, you know? It is just... Anyway, Animal Kingdom. Go find it. Check it out. Next up, I'd already got this on my list because there's a first series and I love it, and it seems to have... I don't know, not many people seem to know about it. And season 2 came out before I could record this, and I've watched all that as well, and that is Love, Death and Robots. It's on Netflix. They are all short films, and when I say short films, I don't think there's not even one that reaches 15 minutes, right? So you've got no reason. Series 1 is about 16 episodes. Series 2 is only 6, right? There is every kind of entertainment you can imagine, but they are all CGI. All of them are CGI. It's all animation. Some of them are amazing. They're brilliant. Honestly, some are hilarious. Some are horrific. Some are funny. Some are tragic. I cannot recommend Love, Death and Robots enough. You will, honestly, you sit down, watch a couple, and you'll be rocking. And you may well end up sitting down and you go, before you know it, you've watched 3 or 4, and hour and a half's gone by, and you go, hey, how did that happen? Or you might just have a little bit of time to spare and you think, oh, I know, I'll watch. Seriously, Love, Death and Robots. Can't speak highly of it enough. Also, I binged The Nevers, which has just been on Sky. And yeah, it's not bad. Not bad. Enjoyed it. Well, I binged it. Some great dialogue, etc. But that's not totally surprising, as it was originally put together by Joss Whedon, who's since said that he'd like to that he's not going to be doing anymore. He was kind of kicked off it for being a twat back in the day, basically. And that I've done my research. I'm a big Joss Whedon fan, but by the sounds of it, yeah, he was an arsehole on previous sets. And I don't necessarily mean a a rapey, smarmy arsehole, but just a, as somebody described it, unnecessarily cruel. He seemed to find belittling people funny. Anyway, Laura Donnelly stars in this. She's fantastic. And really, it's pretty darn enjoyable. An epic tale following a gang of Victorian women who find themselves with unusual abilities, relentless enemies, and a mission that might change the world. And for 5 episodes, it ties up after 5 episodes, and you go, hang on, there's another episode left. And then this episode 6 happens, and you go, what the fuck? It's really typical Joss Whedon. There's clearly quite a lot at work here, and it's not necessarily all immediately apparent. So I'd seriously give Nevers a bit of a watch. I enjoyed it. It does remind me a little bit of an Amazon series that they have on, about people with special powers, and all of that kind of thing. But it was a completely refreshing new take on it, and yeah, really enjoyed it. So check that out. Now, finally, the last TV series I'm going to mention. I don't know how many of you are going to be bothered about this, but on Sky at the moment, you can watch all 4 seasons of Gomorrah. That is the Italian mafia-based TV show. I am about 4 episodes off finishing episode 4 at the moment. I've watched them from beginning to end, all because a friend of mine told me, he said, look, you've got to watch all of these. So I have. Really, really enjoying it. Ultimately, it's like Italian Sopranos, except if anything, it's kind of harder. I mean, it's brutal. It really is. No one is safe. Anyone can die at any minute. It's just fantastically done. Now, obviously, if that's your kind of thing, go for it. I watch it with subtitles. I couldn't even tell you if there's a dubbed version available, but really enjoyed it. And I'm not going to say any more about it because a future guest is the person who told me all about it. We are no doubt going to be having quite a chat. And in fact, that might be the next time you hear from me from a Movie Bollocks, will be with said friend who mentioned Gomorrah. So there you go. We got to the end, 25 movies, 5 TV series, all under 55 minutes. That ain't bad, is it? Well, look, I hope some of that is useful. I hope, I might have agreed with you. I might have disagreed with you. You may have heard of things there where you think, oh, I'll give that a go. That sounds quite interesting. Well, if that's the case, you're welcome. And if not, and if that's not the case, my apologies. Either way, hope you've really enjoyed listening. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. There'll be another Movie Bollocks soon. Happy watching, folks.